Hey guys, Multiplier here. Quick little video today, all about whether or not you should be using the 32-bit version of Ableton or the 64-bit. Now, in simple terms, if you've got a 32-bit computer, well, you're going to be stuck with the 32-bit of Ableton. But if you've got a 64-bit computer, well, you might as well get the 64-bit version of Ableton. Now, the difference in terms of kind of the differences between them is all about the RAM and how much RAM it can use. So the 32-bit version of Ableton is restricted to either 2 or 4 gigabytes of RAM, depending on if you have a 32-bit or a 64-bit computer, whereas the 64-bit version of Ableton allows you to use up to 16 gigabytes of RAM. So it's also worth factoring that in whenever you're looking to upgrade your RAM after you get an out of memory message, because I've spoken to quite a few people who have, say, computers with 8 gigabytes of RAM and they're getting the out of memory message. So they're thinking of upgrading the RAM because RAM's pretty cheap. But unless they upgrade to the 64-bit version of Ableton, it's going to make absolutely no difference, because the 32-bit version of Ableton is limited to 4 gigabytes of RAM. So if you don't know what RAM is, it's kind of like short-term memory. It's like storage space that the computer has to play with stuff. Like in the short term, basically. So things that kind of use a lot of RAM in music production are kind of plugins and stuff that use a lot of samples, stuff like the contact sample libraries or some of the instruments in Ableton. Really sample-based stuff, because to play those instruments, all those samples from those instruments have to be stored in this short-term memory in the RAM. But if you run out of RAM, you'll get the out of memory message anyway. So if you've never seen the out of memory message, or your computer hasn't come to a grinding halt, you're probably all right for RAM, but it's worth kind of factoring all this in, especially before you go to spend some more money on kind of upgrading your RAM in your computer. Just kind of figure out which version of Live you're running. It's worth bearing in mind. And it's also, you have to kind of consider that plugins have to be 64-bit compatible as well. So most major plugins like Massive or Ozone or any plugins made by one of the big companies, if you've got the latest versions, they'll all be 32 and 64-bit compatible. However, if you're using some weird obscure plugin from the internet, it might only be 32-bit. Now, there are ways to get those to run in a 64-bit environment using kind of, I forget the name of it, but it's got Bridge in the name. There's a little bit of software that allows you to do it, but it's a little bit fiddly and it's just not that stable. So it's just worth factoring in. I mean, all the weird little plugins I use come in 64-bit anyway, so it's all good for me. But it's just worth kind of bearing that in mind if you've got a bunch of free plugins that you don't want to lose access to when you go to upgrade to 64-bit. But yeah, it's just worth thinking about. Nice quick little video, and yeah, enjoy fucking making shit or something. I don't know. Sweet. Whatever. Bye.